What do you look at as far as like the crisis moment coming and the fourth turning?
That COVID era from 2020 to last year was like the sort of crisis moment. You have the shutdown of the global economy, destruction of civil liberties, free speech. You show up every day, every week, every month. There are going to be times where it's like, am I just pissing into the wind, shouting into the void? Nobody's paying attention. The numbers aren't going up. You question whether or not this is something you should be doing. But if you're consistent, you stick through it, sharpen your craft. Just by showing up, more and more people will come.
Soakquest. In thinking about that framework of where we're at with Bitcoin policy, where we're at just as Bitcoiners, do you think there's risk of a slide back? Let's say Trump loses office to Democrats in 2028. How far back do you think it could really go?
Pretty far back. I mean, be right back where we were during the Biden administration.
I've had enough of these people.
Particularly some left-leaning members of our government, absolute control over everything, which Bitcoin does not enable. It makes it very hard to control the individuals using Bitcoin. I could definitely see it devolving, degrading, deprecating back to a former state where things were much more adversarial. I think it's critical for the rest of this year, the 2 years after this year, the last 2 years of Trump's second administration, is to try to get as much ground as possible. Similarly, just convince Democrats it's not just a right-wing coded technology. It actually helps.
I want to see you break free and go higher than I ever went.
To the Democrats specifically, am I optimistic that we'll be able to do that? But I would not be surprised if all these messages fall on deaf ears in the long run.
Maybe there's a bill in mind, or it's just adoption. I'm sure the Square announcement got you as excited about Bitcoin adoption as medium of exchange as it got me.
The third route to go here, which is just like get Bitcoin into as many hands in as many nooks and crannies in the American economy specifically, if we're talking in the context of American politics, to make it too big to overregulate.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's a tried and true strategy, particularly of Silicon Valley. We've seen this with Uber and many others. And I think Bitcoin has done a good job of that to date for 17 years of its life. And I think that's something many people should take pride in. The overwhelming negative posture from the US government over most of Bitcoin's existence, we've gotten pretty far. We can continue that momentum too. The more Bitcoin gets integrated into structured credit products and the wealth effect of number go up becomes more tangible for policymakers as the price goes up. Early Bitcoin adopters realize the value that they've saved for many years by spending and buying things in the economy, whether it be homes or cars or starting businesses. That actually is something we don't lean into hard enough and should get easier as the number goes up too, because that wealth effect is going to be real.
Thinking back to that spot we were at the bottom of the 2022-23 bear market, how we could ever get that low, get that attacked. Maybe you've been through more cycles than I have. Every time it goes down into an 80% bear market, it feels the same.
Pretty numb to the roller coaster of the price chart these days.
I love the pain.
This recent correction that has a lot of people freaking out is nothing in comparison to 2015. Many people thought Bitcoin was going to die when it fell to like $180. Nobody was talking about it. There was very few people on Bitcoin Twitter as it existed back then. It was pretty desperate times moving forward. It's hard for me to believe that we could ever get back to that. The number's gone up too much. People using Bitcoin every day, whether it's as a long-term savings vehicle or a medium of exchange. The amount of Lightning invoices I've paid over the last year far exceeds the number of Bitcoin payments I made collectively between 2013 and beginning of 2025.
The part that you remember anyways.
I want to hear more about the business of TFTC. What's your big vision for that company?
Big vision is we want to provide just that, truth for the commoner. We want to be a signal in a sea of noise to put out good content through different mediums, whether that's a newsletter, podcast. I started doing these talking head videos twice a week where I'll talk for like 15 to 20 minutes on a particular topic. TFTC will be 9 years old later this year. We're coming up on a decade. For a long time at TFTC, particularly like the first 5 years, it was just this passion project, side hustle. But post-COVID, it started becoming a legitimate business.
That was legitness. Yeah.
Our audience started to grow pretty significantly. 2025 was the best year ever from reviews, downloads, revenue, engagement perspective. We've been riding this emerging wave of AI tools to do what we do better. What you're seeing is a product of us working much smarter by leveraging these tools and implementing it. And then on top of that, you just have this vacuum in the media space for better brands, better sources of information. There's an opportunity for Bitcoin specific and Bitcoin adjacent content that there's plenty of room to serve that market.
You usually have people that are Bitcoiners on, but every once in a while you have someone who is aware of it, maybe a little bit less like in the know of it, but they have really awesome insight into some specific thing. When you talk to those people, how do you discount or think of their opinion if they're missing such a big piece of Bitcoin?
Generous, forgiving, show a lot of grace.
Amazing grace.
We're maniacally focused on Bitcoin. If I'm just thinking about myself in the lane that I run in and how I operate and learning as much as I can about it, staying up to date on the developments around the protocol and around the macro themes that sort of drive the adoption of Bitcoin over the long run. Part of the reason I have these people who aren't focused on Bitcoin on is because I'm genuinely curious. I don't have enough time in my day to dive out of what I'm doing on the Bitcoin stuff to dedicate the time to learn this. So let me take a shortcut and have you on to help
Ain't nobody got time for that.
explain it to me. You have to imagine those people that are domain experts in their particular domain that they like to nerd out about. They're thinking very similarly. So they see Bitcoin as this, in a lot of cases, distraction that would take away from their main area of focus. It's also basically a touch point for Bitcoin. The goal is to have somebody on, have a really good conversation with them. Hopefully they walk away thinking, hey, I like that Marty guy.
He was the best guy around.
He's interested in Bitcoin, and maybe Bitcoin isn't all that bad because he was able to ask good questions and have an in-depth conversation about something that I really care about.
How do you think about spending time building a community on Nostr?
Nostr, for me at least, that's where I go when I want to get the focused Bitcoin-related content. Increasingly so over the years, particularly with how Primal's building out their suite of services with their client. It is becoming, Primal as an example, a super app and everything app, beginning to materialize on top of the Nostr protocol. Going back to like the 2015 Bitcoin cycle, for anybody who's passionate about Nostr, somebody who's experienced this in Bitcoin, like I would not let a temporary lull in activity discourage you from thinking that Nostr has long-term viability. I think it certainly does, especially as we get into this world of AI slop taking over.
Oh, woo! That's what I'm talking about.
The ability to sort of own your identity, verify messages with private key signatures is something that is extremely undervalued right now, not recognized by most of the market. It will be getting priced in over the next decade. Don't get discouraged when we're streaming under predominantly Nostr these days, but a lot of the activity has migrated from X and YouTube live chat to the Primal live chat. That use case alone, replacing Twitch and Kick, is a massive opportunity. And then on top of that, what Svetsky's doing with Satlantis, with the events thing, Trojan horsing people into Nostr by creating like a just superior event product and just embedding Nostr into it. Applications like that aren't obvious, but simply want to leverage the social web of trust of Nostr are going to be massive for adoption in the long term too.
What do you think Nostr needs?
It just needs more people.
Come over.
Where are we going?
It's a surprise.
Probably needs more censorship from social media players. People, time, and increase in censorship on the centralized protocols, which there's been a boon of free speech returning to these platforms. It would be remiss of us to assume that's going to be the status quo moving forward. Elon and others will certainly try to keep these things open and allow people to speak freely on them. If some people get their way, curbing a speech on these platforms will return at some point.
As we're wrapping this up, thinking about fourth turning crisis moment and just how things are getting more and more heated. The big reset of institutions is monetary in this fourth turning reset period. What do you look at as far as like the crisis moment coming in the fourth turning?
It was COVID. I think it's behind us. That's the thing. Like empires don't die with a bang. They die with a whimper. We won't know exactly when the moment is, when it's happening in real time. This is something that will be identified in retrospect when the history books are written, probably a couple decades from now. That COVID era from 2020 to last year was like the sort of crisis moment. You have the shutdown of the global economy, destruction of civil liberties, free speech. You had the freezing of the Russian treasury assets when they went into Ukraine.
Haven't had ass in 3 days. Water supplies going down.
Obviously, you had all the monetary stimulus that flowed into the economy and the insane interest rate policy. If you think of how things have progressed since then, it's only become more fractured and more multipolar.
I'm coming. I like to fight too.
The United States, obviously, with Trump too, is explicitly saying we only care about the Western Hemisphere. We're not doing things the old way. This doesn't work for us. The rules-based order never worked, and we're not going to keep playing that game. That was explicitly laid out. It'll be very easy to look back retroactively at 2020 to 2025 and be like, oh yeah, this is when everything really broke down massively to an irreparable state.